What if one morning you woke up and learned that the banks had closed? How much money would you really have? What if you couldn't access your balance, your card, or even your salary? That's when you realize something unsettling. Your money was never truly yours. So what can you do to prepare? That's what we'll talk about in this video. Grab your tea or your coffee, sit back and listen carefully, because this story could become real one morning. When the banks close, you wake up and hear the news. The banks are closed. You grab your phone to check your balance, but the app doesn't open. At the corner, the ATM has a sign that says, "Out of service." Shops are open, but no one accepts your card. Gas stations take cash only. Rent is due, but your landlord no longer accepts transfers. At first you think it's a glitch, something temporary, but then you notice the tension in the air. People are lining up outside shuttered bank branches. Markets are packed. Everyone's filling their carts to the brim, and since cards don't work, they're paying with crumpled bills. From the TV, a voice echoes, "The financial system is under emergency review." And that's when a cold realization hits you. Your money isn't where you thought it was. It wasn't sitting in that account waiting for you. It was always just numbers on a screen. And now that screen is dark. It might sound like the opening of a dystopian novel. But it's not. This has happened before. In stable, modern, so-called safe countries. And when it happens, life doesn't slow down. It breaks. Wealth, security, and survival change overnight. Argentina. 2001 years of bad economic management, debt, and IMF rescue packages had pushed the government to the edge. People started converting their savings into dollars and sending them abroad. Bank deposits were shrinking fast. And then the government made a decision. It shut the doors. They called it the corralito, meaning the little corral. But for the people of Argentina, it was a cage. Cash withdrawals were limited to 250 pesos per week. Dollar accounts were forcibly converted into devalued pesos. Within just a few weeks, the savings meant for homes, businesses, or retirement lost half their real value. People took to the streets, banging pots and pans in protest. Families who once felt safe and middle class suddenly found themselves thrown into chaos. This is what happens when banks close. Money doesn't disappear in theory. It disappears in reality. Bread, milk, and rent become luxuries overnight. Cyprus, 2013. The story in Cyprus wasn't much different. The European Union agreed to provide a bailout, but only under one condition. The government had to freeze bank deposits. That morning, people woke up to find out that accounts over 100,000 euros would be cut. In other words, their money was literally being taken. But the ones who suffered most weren't the billionaires. It was the small business owners, the retirees, the families. Companies couldn't pay salaries. Pensioners couldn't withdraw their savings. Parents couldn't pay for their children's school fees. And overnight, everything people had worked for, saved for, and believed was safe was suddenly out of reach. Because when the system fails, it doesn't fail at the top. It collapses on those who trusted it the most. Lebanon, 2019. After years of corruption and economic mismanagement, Lebanon's banking system finally collapsed. Capital controls were introduced. Banks limited cash withdrawals to just a few $100s per month. It didn't matter if you had $1 million in your account, you couldn't touch it. People stopped walking into branches with documents. They started walking in with guns. Because when desperation grows, reason disappears. And every time the story is the same. The money you think is yours isn't really yours. It belongs to the system, and you only have access to it as long as that system allows it. America, 1933. Even in America, the place people said it could never happen, the banks closed. In the middle of the Great Depression, President Franklin Roosevelt announced a nationwide bank holiday. For 4 days, every bank in the country was shut down. No one could withdraw money. Businesses couldn't pay wages, and uncertainty spread across the nation. Only a few banks, those approved by the government, were later allowed to reopen. But think about that for a moment. Even the richest country in the world had to freeze its entire banking system just to stop it from collapsing. When the trust breaks, even the strongest economies fall silent. The true face of banking. All of these stories share one truth. Banks don't hold your money the way you think they do. They operate through something called the fractional reserve system. That means for every $1 you deposit, only a small portion stays in the vault. The rest is loaned out, invested, and turned into debt. If too many people try to withdraw their money at the same time, the bank simply doesn't have it. And when that illusion breaks, governments rarely admit the truth. Instead, they stand by the banks. They limit withdrawals, devalue savings, and make ordinary people pay for the system's mistakes. The illusion only works as long as people believe in it. Once that belief fades, the truth is exposed. Imagine the reality. Now imagine this. What if the same thing happened in your city tomorrow? Do you have enough cash to last a week? What about a month? Could you pay your mortgage if the bank collapsed? Could you feed your family if your card stopped working? This isn't paranoia. It's an uncomfortable truth. The financial system was never built to protect you. It was built to protect itself. And when things start to fall apart, you realize it too late. Banks aren't secure vaults. They are fragile machines powered by trust. And when that trust breaks, money and power move in directions you can no longer control. The system's illusion, built on trust. When you look back at history, every crisis starts the same way. Banks don't collapse by accident, they collapse by design. At the heart of modern finance lies the fractional reserve system. It is both the genius and the weakness of the entire structure. To put it simply, banks don't keep your money in the vault. It isn't a coat left at a cloakroom. When you deposit $1,000, the bank might keep $50 and lend out the rest to a business, a home buyer, or even to the government itself. That loan becomes someone else's deposit, which becomes another loan, and the cycle repeats. In the end, your $1,000 becomes $5,000 or even $10,000 in new loans. It's a machine that fuels growth, but it's also a tower made of cards. Because if everyone asks for their $1,000 at the same time, the money simply isn't there. That's why trust is everything. The system only works as long as people believe the doors will stay open. But when that belief cracks, panic begins. It only takes a few people withdrawing their savings to set off a chain reaction, like someone shouting fire in a crowded theater. One scream, one rush, and chaos follows. The government's reflex, saving the system, not the people. Governments understand this situation very well. That's why in every crisis, their first reflex is the same. They save the banks, not the people. Argentina didn't declare the corralito out of bad intentions. But if citizens had kept withdrawing their money, every bank in the country would have collapsed within a week. Cyprus took a different path in 2013. They introduced what was called a bail-in, pulling money directly from citizens' accounts to keep the system alive. They called it a painful but necessary measure. But in reality, it meant that ordinary people paid for the mistakes of politicians and bankers. When Roosevelt closed the banks in 1933, his goal wasn't to calm the public. It was to stop the collapse from spreading. The truth is simple. Banks and governments depend on each other. Banks can't survive without government support. And governments can't function without the banks that finance their debt. When a crisis hits, those two sides always unite. And the one left outside is you. The depositor, the taxpayer, the person who thought the money was yours. Deposit insurance. Real safety or psychological comfort. The entire system survives on one thing: belief. It's held together by rules, guarantees, and psychological reassurance. Deposit insurance sounds comforting, doesn't it? In the United States, the FDIC promises protection up to $250,000. But ask yourself this: if every depositor in the country demanded their money at the same time, would that money really exist? The answer is no. The insurance fund covers only a tiny fraction of total deposits. Its power isn't financial, it's psychological. Its purpose isn't to protect your money, it's to keep you calm. When banks close, life stops. So what really happens when the banks close? Trade freezes, digital payments vanish, salaries stop, supply chains fall apart. In Lebanon, factories couldn't get raw materials because international money transfers had been cut off. In Greece, during the 2015 crisis, people stood for hours under the burning sun, waiting in line at ATMs just to withdraw 60 euros a day. And the result? Weddings were postponed, surgeries were canceled, children were pulled out of school. In an instant, everyone realized something terrifying. Money was no longer a right. It had become a privilege, granted only when the state allowed it. The digital age, a new kind of fragility. It's easy to say those things happened in the past. But the digital age hasn't solved these problems. It has made them worse. As money turned digital, we became more dependent on banks, cards, and online systems than ever before. If a server crashes, if a card reader fails, or if a bank freezes your account, your wealth instantly becomes nothing more than empty numbers on a screen. Today, we live in a world where cash is almost gone. And the idea of a bank shutdown is no longer a fear from the Great Depression. It's the silent nightmare of the digital age, the domino effect. When the system stops, a collapse like this spreads like falling dominoes. Businesses can't pay salaries and layoffs begin. Markets can't pay their suppliers, and shelves go empty. Investors panic and sell everything. Retirement funds melt away. Governments try to restore trust, but every day the lines grow longer and patience runs thinner. A technical decision made in a quiet meeting room turns into a full-scale social crisis within weeks. And the longer the crisis lasts, the more desperate people become. Some turn to bartering. Some start hoarding. Others take to the streets. This isn't speculation. It's history. Repeated in different countries again and again. The breaking point. When trust fails, this isn't just a problem for weak economies. It can happen anywhere, and it always begins with the same words. It could never happen here. But that phrase has been spoken before every major collapse in history. Argentina in 2000, Greece in 2010, Lebanon in 2018. They all believed they were different. Stability is not a fact. It's an illusion. Until one morning, that illusion disappears. Here's the truth. Banks don't exist to protect your wealth. They exist to protect themselves. When a crisis hits, you might think you'll be the first to be saved, but you won't be. The system isn't built that way. Ignoring that reality is one of the most dangerous mistakes you can make. Lessons from the past. Past crises aren't dusty stories buried in history books. They are warnings. When Argentina closed its banks, the anger in the streets wasn't just about money. People felt betrayed. In Cyprus, middle-class families lost a decade of savings overnight. While institutions labeled too big to fail were rescued, ordinary people were left to sink. In Lebanon, the crisis shattered more than the economy. It destroyed people's faith in their own country. And in America, the Great Depression changed a generation forever. Those who lived through it never spent money the same way again. They never fully trusted the system again. All these stories point to one uncomfortable truth. Your money belongs to you only as long as the system allows it. The numbers on your screen might feel safe, but once that trust is broken, those numbers mean nothing. What to do? Real security in times of crisis. Today, we live in a world of record public debt, fragile supply chains, and rising geopolitical tensions. In times like these, a bank holiday or capital control is no longer a distant possibility. It's a tool waiting in the hands of governments. So what should you do? The answer isn't panic. It isn't hiding your cash under the mattress either. History shows that those who act out of fear lose the most. The real strategy is resilience. Diversification isn't a buzzword, it's a survival skill. Keeping your assets in different forms with different institutions and even in different countries can make the difference between being trapped and staying free. Real wealth isn't what you earn. It's what you can access when everything freezes. Gold, real estate, alternative stores of value, even a small cash reserve. These aren't outdated ideas. They are lifelines. The things that let you breathe when the system stops. The laws of the system. But this doesn't end with personal preparation. Awareness must exist on a collective level too, because laws are often written not to protect citizens, but to protect the system itself. Deposit insurance, emergency powers, capital controls. Their main purpose isn't to prevent collapse. It's to manage panic. If we fail to understand that, we'll keep playing the same role in the same story. But if we do understand it, then we can push for something better. We can demand transparency, accountability, and a system that serves people, not just institutions. Because real reform starts when awareness turns into pressure. The true cost of trust. The most frightening part of this story is how fragile trust really is. A bank doesn't need to burn down to collapse. It only takes people losing faith. When that faith disappears, the masks come off. Banks were never neutral. They have always been part of a bigger system, governments, corporations, and global markets. And you are not a customer. You are a participant, a moving part that keeps the machine running. As long as the system works, everyone feels safe. But once it stops, you finally see how thin that layer of trust really was. History whispers. History never repeats itself word for word, but its echoes never fade. Argentina, Cyprus, Lebanon, Greece, even the United States, they all revealed the same truth. Access is not ownership. If your wealth depends on the mercy of institutions, then it isn't truly yours. Real financial freedom is the ability to see beyond the illusion of security, because one day the question might not be, what if the banks close? But they already have. What do I do now? If this story gave you a new perspective, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because history holds all the answers. I'm just here to show you where to look.